Hello everyone. Welcome to today's session. We are going to discuss about looping in Python. So we'll see while loop, we'll see for loop, and then we'll see some data structures. So actually we haven't gone through data structures yet. So as a part of a data structure, we are going to check for list and the various operations involved with lists. Okay. So let's begin. I'm sharing the screen. See, why do we use loops? So loops are always used so that a certain number of lines in the program are going to be repeated to a certain number of times. Maybe if I want to repeat a particular statements 5 times, so I have to repeatedly execute the same sentence, right? So instead of I repeatedly execute the same sentence, so I'm just going to use a loop. So it can be if it is based on certain conditions, I'm going to use if and else loops. So if it is based on simply I have to repeat some logic. So for example, here you see, here you see, I'm using a range function here and I'm using for loop. Okay. So for how does the for loop works and what would be the syntax? Let's see. So for any loop iteration variable, I need to mention here. Okay. So loop iteration variable means the variable which is explicitly and mandatorily used inside the loop. So as of now, you're aware of what is a loop and how do you write a loop inside Python. We have done it if and else condition in the previous session. Similarly, so now I start with for, and this is the loop variable. I is a loop variable for I in. So I want to use a range function here. Okay, so range of 5 I'm going to give. So and after that, see here I can make any operation on the variable I. I can make, I is equal to I plus 1, I is equal to I into 1, or, I variable will be having the values of which is coming from range function, isn't it? So the range function, you should be aware of it already. Range function always gives you the values, the sequence of numbers from 0 to 4. So if I'm just printing the range function, 0 to 5, right? Just a second. So I'm just checking. So 0 to 5, if I want to show you the range function, which is giving you the sequence of numbers, let's see. Okay, here actually range is always used with for loop. For I in range of 5, print I, right? So here range of 5, it takes up the numbers from 0 to 4. I is equal to range of 5, print I. I mean, it's like 0 to 5, right? If I want to, if I want to make it work, if I want to make the range function work in particular way, if I want to make the range function to be printing the numbers. A range means a range of values. A range of values means if it is range of 5, which is nothing but 0 to 4. If it is range of 10, it can be 0 to 9. It's like that. So if I change it to range of 10, see, it can be 0 to 9. But what matters here is the syntax. The syntax is always in this way. So the syntax of range is this. No, range start, comma, stop, comma, step. So this is the syntax. So how do I use this? So I can give, see, if I've given only one number, it takes by default as stop. So now it starts from 0. By default, it starts from 0 and it ends in n minus 1. I mean 10 minus 1. So it starts from 0 and ends at 9. Okay. So 0 to 9 ended. Now, if you want to start from 1 and end at 10, that can also be possible. See, started from 1 and ended at 9. Now, the step here. By default, the step is always like 1. 1 is a step, one increment, okay? If you want to change that increment to 2, you can do that. See, now after 1, increment 2 will be added, 3 number. And again, after 3, increment 2 will be added. 3 plus 2, 5. 5 plus 2, 7. 7 plus 2, 9. So this is how range function works inside the for loop. I mean, if this is again a bit difficult, let's do it very simple. If I have a data structure here, list is a data structure. So in list one, what I can do, in list one, I can just declare some numbers. List of numbers, a list of elements or any sequence of alphabet, sequence of numbers. In Python, I can make it as a list data structure. So list is a data structure in Python, which we'll be discussing in detail later. But still, as of now, you just understand. So this is a data structure. I mean, how do you store the data as a sequence of numbers? So as a sequence of numbers, I'm storing the data here in the list. So once you create the list, now I need to iterate through all the elements of the list. I mean, I need to access 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if that is the case, I can use a for loop for I in list 1. So that means this I will directly point to the elements of the list. So as in, you just check the range function. In range, what happened? It gave us the sequence of numbers, like, for I in range of 1 to 10 or 1 to 5. So it gave us all the numbers 1, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. But here I want to access the elements of the list. How do I access using for loop? For I in list 1, print I. See, now I can see all the elements easily. But if I want to print, if I don't use for loop, and if I still want to print all the elements of the list, how do I print? See, every single element, I need to write a separate print statement. See, this is how I'm accessing. So again, this is another topic, which is how do you access the elements of the list? So how do you access the elements of the list? Using list indexing. So what is list indexing? So, I'll just share you the whiteboard. See, this is list 1, 2, 3, 4. What is indexing? So, indexing is nothing but it is helping you to store in memory a pointer. Indexing is nothing but it's a pointer. It helps you to access the elements of various sequential data structures. It helps you to access list data structure values, dictionary values, or tuple values, or set values. So we have a various data structures in Python. So actually the indexing helps us to access the elements. So here it starts from 0. It's 1, 2, 3. See, whatever the elements of the list can be, but indexing always starts with 0. So now list 1 of 0 will help us to access 1. So at 0th position, it is a nothing but position. At 0th position, we have 1. At first position, we have 2. At second position, we have 3. At third position, we have 4. Got it, right? So this is how list indexing works. Now that I have used for loop, I'll explain that as well. For I For I in list one, I've just printed it, right? Print I. So now see how the for loop works. So for is this statement. The first statement, the console will come here. It executes this statement. I will be the loop variable. Like, by default, I will not have any value. It takes up the loop values. So for I in list one means I will take up one here in the beginning, and then it goes inside the loop and it will be printed. So print I done. But again it goes back. Looping means repeatedly execute some lines of code, right? So you have to repeatedly execute some lines. So here I'm repeatedly executing print statement. Again it goes back to the loop. Again the I get automatically incremented. Since I'm using for loop, it increments to 2. So now I will be pointing to 2, not 1, in the second iteration. So I call it iteration. In the first iteration, I was having 1 and 1 was printed, good, in the console. In the second iteration, I is having 2, 2 is printed, good, done. Again, it goes back to the for loop. I got incremented to 3. So now in the third iteration, again, it comes inside the loop. Not only print statement, instead of print statement, if any number of statements are there, that is fine. 3 will be printed. Again, it goes back until the loop ends, until the loop completes. It keeps on executing. So here 4 also gets printed. And then if it goes, I cannot get incremented because it is already reached the end of the list. So once it reaches the end of the list, the execution stops. So this is how for loop works. Instead of list values, I told you about range also. So for I in range of 0 to 3. Okay. Again, print statement. Print I. So how does it execute? For I in range of 0 to 3. So the I will take up the values from this range function. If you mention list, I will take up the values from the list. If you mention range function, I will take up the values from the range function. Okay. So here what happens, I will take up 0 in the beginning because the range of 0 to 3, it populates 0, 1, 2, and it doesn't populate the last element. It doesn't populate 3. Okay, I mean the last element is omitted. It cannot include that. It can only have 0, 1, 2. So now I will take up 0 first and print I. 0 will be printed, and then it goes back looping. I will take up 1 and then print I, 1 will be printed. And again it goes back to for loop. I will take up 2 and 2 will be printed. 0, 1, 2 will be the output. So this is how we use for loop with the help of range function as well as list one. It cannot be only range, it cannot be only list one, it can be set, it can be tuple, it can be any other data structure, but this is how for loop works in every data structure. So now that you understood how it works in real, you just can assume here. See, for I in range of 1, comma 10, comma 2, it starts from 1 plus 2, 3, plus 2, 5, plus 2, 7, plus 2, 9. Now you need to tell me the output of this. So I've given only starting point 0, ending point 10. You just have to print I. So just tell me what could be the output. Hope you have correctly predicted the output 0 to 9. So if I'm accessing 1, 2, 3, 4 elements which are in the list 1, for I in list 1, we can access the elements. So if I have an option to give only the stop here. If I give for I in range of 5, so 5 is a stopping. It starts from 0. It has an increment of 1 by default. 0 is the default starting point and increment of 1 is the default increment value. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. See, and after that I have given 1 to 6. That means it starts from 1 and ends at 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is how it worked. And okay, range has a reverse loop counting backwards also. For I in range of 10, comma 0, comma minus 1, if suppose, see the positive increment I have given, you can increment 1, you can increment 2, you can increment 3. But if I give negative 1, what happens? It counts backwards. So if I'm starting with 10 and going till 0 with an increment of negative 1, that means it's going to decrement, right? So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 0 will not be coming because the final value obviously it won't. So this is how I use for loop with range function with negative values in the indexing position. So again, I have a list here, another list. See, a list can be having numbers. It can have strings, it can have words, it can have any kind of data. So a list is a mix of data types. It cannot, have only one sequence of data type. It can have a mix of data type also. So list is very flexible, easy to use, used a lot of times in our logic. So now we know for I in fruits, for fruit in fruits, print fruit. So for I, fruit is another loop variable here. Fruits means in first variable, this I will be pointing to apple, I will be pointing to banana, I will be pointing to mango, then it will get executed. That's it. Again for character in Python, print character. So now each letter in the word is considered in each iteration. So for single iteration, see, I just remove this CH and I just mention I here. See, I in the first iteration points to P and P will be printed. Again, it goes back here. Second iteration, I will be pointing to Y and Y will be printed. Third iteration, I will be pointing to T, T will be printed. Fourth, fifth, sixth, because totally six letters are there. Six times the loop gets executed. Six times the loop is repeated. So that's how it worked. Again, this is using enumerate function. See, enumerate is a function. I want to assign numbers to my list values. Okay. I want to assign numbers. For example, I have a list here which has red, blue, and green. I need to enumerate it. Enumerate each element of the list. So I can start from 0, 0, 1, 2, like that. See, 0 I'm assigning to red, 1 I'm assigning to blue, 2 I'm assigning to green. How did it happen? It happened because of the functions. See, I told you before, Python has inbuilt functions, inbuilt libraries. We just have to know when to use it and which one to use it. So here I'm making use of enumerate colors. Enumerate is the function for which you need to enumerate. You need to enumerate the colors list. And this index and color. So index is the number variable, color is the list element. So this number element, I mean, I'm adding an index to all the elements of the list. See, index positions, I told you they are nothing but positions, right? So positions are always starts from 0. So here I want to add an index to list elements. I have a choice to add the elements to other sequential data structures also. But as of now, I'm adding index to all the elements of the list here. So this is very useful in certain projects. So here in this example, I'm making sure I show you the use of zip here, zip function. So zip function adds up See, like how enumerate added a number before each element of the list. I mean, it added an index, right? So here, which is zip function, it just combines two values. So here I have two lists here. So I have two lists here. One is names, another one is marks. So names are A, B, C. Marks are 80, 90, 85. So now I need to combine them and I need to make like a table. So now I zip names, comma, marks. So that they all came together. And for that I'm using for loop and I'm using two variables. So this is how where I use two variables. When in enumerate, I use index and then the color list. And then index and the color means the color will point to this. I mean, instead of color you can also mention I, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, any letter also. So here same n and m are the two loop variables because I have two elements, right? One is one list and the other is another list, so I have two complete lists. So I need one variable I need to point to one list here, and the other variable I need to point to the other list. So two lists I have to put up here in order to use the zip function. Here also index is one variable. I see I can use A, B, C, any other letter also. So one letter to point out to the index values here and the other letter to other loop variable to point to the all the elements of the list. So that is how the for loop works. I hope you all understood it. See, these are nested for loops. So that means I'm using one for loop inside the other for loop. So here the inside for loop is there. Okay. So firstly, the first for loop for I in range of 3. So firstly, in the first iteration, what happens? I'll write here. First iteration, I will be having 0 and then j will be having 0. So print I comma j, which is nothing but the output will be 0 comma 0. So next, let's go to the second iteration. Okay. So second iteration, I will be having 1. The second iteration, I will be having, sorry, j here. Second iteration, j will be having 1 also. So my output is going to be 1 comma 1. And then third iteration is going to have or not? No, right? Because the range is already over. The loop has ended. It comes back. I will be incremented and I becomes 2, but it doesn't fall under. No, it falls under the range. I'm sorry. So it falls under the range. So I will be is equal to 2. J will be also equals to 2. So again, 2. Oh, no, sorry. See, J cannot be right because J has given only range of 2. That means it can only have values of 0 and 1. It cannot have this. So that's ended. So this loop is ended. That means it cannot print anything. So now my output is going to be 0, comma 0 and 1, comma 1. See, first iteration, it can be 0, comma 0. First iteration is 0 comma 0. And after that, okay, the inner for loop will execute first and then it goes back to outer for loop, okay, to increment. First iteration, I was having 0 and J was having 0 and 0 comma 0 was printed. But see, with I is equal to 0, J, this inner for loop gets executed completely. I mean, J also gets incremented and J becomes 1 also. And at that moment, output becomes 0, comma 1 because I is still having 0, but this inner for loop is executing completely. And then only it goes back to outer for loop. So whatever present in the inner for loop, that executes in the first go. So that completes 0 comma 0 was 0 comma 1. So once this inner for loop completes, it goes back to the outer for loop and gets an increment. So once it gets incremented, I becomes equals to 1 and j becomes equals to again, j again starts with 0. J again starts with 0. So I 1 comma 0 and 1 comma 1. Again, it goes to outer for loop and I becomes equals to 2. So when I becomes equals to 2, j becomes again 0. So 2 comma 0 and 2 comma 1. So for every outer element, there will be a complete execution of the inner for loop and it takes up all the values of the j, 0 and 1. So that's how nested for loops work. I hope it's clear also. So now if suppose I need to break from the loop. So if I want to come out of the loop completely, I'll be using break statement. So here, there is for I in range of 1 to 6. That means in the first iteration, I will be having 1. Then it checks if I is equals to 4. No. So no need to break. You can print I. So 1 will be printed. Again, it goes back to the for loop. I will be incremented by 1. So I becomes equal to 2. And again, 2 will be equals to 4 is checked. Is it true? 2 is equals to 4? No, that's false. So again, it doesn't go inside this. So it goes to here. 2 will be printed. Again, I gets incremented by 1. So I becomes equals to 3. So again, it's checked. 3 is equals to 4? No. Again, it goes to the else part. So this print I will be done. Again, it increments I becomes equals to 4. So when 4 equals to 4 is true, it goes and breaks from the loop and none of the other iterations are going to be executed. So the loop completely stops. So that is how I use break here. So if suppose I need to continue, I need to use a continue, that means I need to skip a iteration. For example, see the range is 1 to 6. That means ideally if I don't use break or continue, I get the output as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Complete sequence. But I want to skip 3. I want to skip the third number, then I can use continue. So if I equals to 3, continue, right? So this 3 will get skipped and the other iterations gets continued as it is. So firstly, it becomes equals to 1, I becomes 1 and 1 equals to 3 is false. 1 will be printed. Again, the same way 2 will be printed. But when it comes to 3, 3 equals to 3 is true. So it just continues without printing this. I mean, after this continue, it goes to this for loop directly. It doesn't print here anything. So skipping 3, it goes to 4, I gets incremented and 4 again it's false. So 4 gets printed, 5 also printed. So my output will be 1, 2, 4, 5. See. So this is how with break, with continue, we can create the logic. So now there is else with for loop. So for I in range of 5, I'm going to print I. That means 1, 2, 3, sorry, 0, 1, 2. If I don't give anything, just 5 here, it starts from, by default, it starts from 0 and has an increment of 1. So it becomes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And else print loop finish. That means if loop is not broken at all, if loop doesn't have a break, So it doesn't break by any chance, then it executes the else. I mean, loop is finished. If loop is successfully finished, then only it goes to the else part. So why do we use else? In order to check if the for loop is successfully executed, we use else part. So that's about the for loop. I think rest of the things we'll see in the next session. Thank you so much for being listening to me. Thanks a lot. Thanks everyone. Bye bye.